And welcome to the Aaron Katzman Show. I'm your host, Aaron Katzman. We speak about your life, your money, and your investments. And as always, we're coming to you from the spiritual and soon-to-be financial capital of the world, Jerusalem, Israel. If you like this content, please hit the like button below. If you've not yet done so, please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and to the podcast. And if you think that you're going to know people who might actually find some of this content interesting, please go ahead and hit the share button below and share it with them as well. So we did a series on estate planning, and I'd like to speak about like 3 big takeaways that people should think about as they get older and they have to start dealing with their estates. The big issue, right, when you're doing estate planning is that you want to sort of retain control, right? You want to, while you're alive, sort of designate where your assets and the like are going to go. Right? You don't want to leave that up to some court after you pass away. So it's important to get an estate plan set up, right? That's probably the real reason that one of the big reasons that you, in fact, want to do that. In Israel, for example, there are other reasons, and that's because in Israel, the sort of the default is when a spouse, let's say you're married, your spouse passes away, you are then become 50-50 owners or partners with your children. That's how the state works here. It doesn't all go to the surviving spouse. Rather, 50% goes to the kids, 50% goes to the remaining spouse. So if you want any changes off of that default, right, you've got to then write those down, right, in the form of a will or what have you. The same goes through pretty much everywhere else in the world, right? Not that part of the 50-50, but if you want your wishes or you want to sort of codify your wishes, so posthumously they're fulfilled, you need to do something. And don't just say, oh, my kids are great. My kids are great. They get along. I tell you all the time, when it comes to money, the best families have all kinds of issue and stress and fights over the littlest things when it comes to money. And it doesn't have anything to do with the money. Sometimes it has to do with, perceived favoritism, perceived loved of the parents. All the dirty laundry comes out after the fact. So if you want to sort of protect the relationship of your children, let's say, set up an estate plan. So number 1 tip is to do a will, right? So that you can formulate your wishes, however they may be, and write them down, right? So that when you pass, the surviving spouse gets all the assets, or when you're both pass, then it's split amongst the children. One tip that I can't stress enough is, in the will, make things equal, okay? If you give one of your children more when you were alive and one of them less, don't do that don't try and equal things in the will and give one less and one more. That is a recipe for total disaster. Make it equal, okay? While you're alive, you can play the games and try and make things equal, or give one more who needs it and one who doesn't need it, give them less. But when it comes time for the will, even if you have children who hit it big or who are worth lots and lots of money, and children who are struggling, give everybody the same. While you're alive, you can help the struggling kids more and the billionaires in the family less, okay? But once you pass away, because I say it's not just about money, it's about perceived love and relationships and everything like that. And if you don't make that equal, you're setting your kids up for complete and total disaster and fractures in the relationship. I can't stress it enough. I see it on a weekly basis. Trust me, I see it on a weekly basis, okay? Number 2 is the use of trusts, right? When you do a will, then you have to go ahead and probate the will. That goes into the public record. So a lot of people, a lot of estate planners, certainly for larger sums of money, but as we learned through these interviews, even for sums that were much more modest, trusts can be a really good tool as well. Because they do an end around the whole probate process. So in certain respects, things can be accomplished faster, right? The heirs get their money faster, number 1. Number 2, it remains private, right? It doesn't go into the public record how much money you had, who's getting what, assets and whatever. It keeps things much more private. And that's huge, right? People don't necessarily need to know what your kids are inheriting or what you owned or what have you. Privacy is really, really good. And of course, like I said, the probate issues or lack of, it can be a big, big benefit. Obviously, it comes with costs. There are costs to trust. There are different types of trusts. I'm not a lawyer, right? All these things I should qualify by saying this is for information. Obviously, you have to go speak to a lawyer and figure out what's best for you, what solves your specific issues the best. And that's really important because you and your neighbor might have different issues when it comes to setting up your estate plan and fulfillment of your wishes. You might have, you might want to give a chunk of your money to charity, and they might just want to give all their money to kids, right? That's just an easy difference. They're much more complicated things, special needs and all these kinds of things. So, keep that in mind. The third issue, which was fascinating, is second marriages. Okay, second marriages for both people, and the need or lack of. When do you combine finances? When do you protect finances and assets so that your specific kids inherit and not your new spouse's children? Now, these are big, big issues, and these are things which have to, again, be codified, right? So let's say you both remarry, you both come into your second marriage with children. And let's say you both have, some real estate and some brokerage accounts, what have you. What a lot of people will do will be like this. They'll create a joint bank account for, everyday expenses, whether it's for rent or for utilities or mortgage, whatever it is. If you decide to buy something, right? Food, entertainment, they'll both put, they'll figure out what their budget is, and they'll both contribute X amount of money into that pot. And that's how the new couple will live. That's how they're going to go ahead and make ends meet on a daily, monthly, annual basis. But their assets, right, like I said, the real estate they may own, the brokerage accounts they may own, that goes to them, right? They draw up a will, trust, whatever, that their kids inherit them, right? And not the other spouse's kids inheriting them. Now, that's a little complicated, but I think you can figure it out what I meant. That's very, very important. Another thing that we spoke about in that is that if possible, it's not always possible, right? It depends on your financial situation, but it's not always so simple emotionally especially when one side has a lot more assets than the other. When you go ahead and move into one of the spouse's properties, right? Their house, their apartment. Because then I just see it. There's like this certain discomfort that the other spouse has, right? That, they don't have quite as much money. They don't have power. When you move into somebody's house, you're not always equal. You're not completely on equal footing, even though you're now husband and wife. There's something sort of lacking. So if possible, and what a lot of people do, I've heard plenty of planners say, so just sell your property, right? And then, put it into whatever, put it in the stock market, buy bonds, whatever it is, put it into and make sure your will accounts for that. And those assets still go to your kids, but you combine forces and you buy something new. You buy a new apartment or you rent a new place. So everybody's going into that second marriage sort of on equal footing. I think that's also really, really important. Look, this is a huge topic, estate planning. How to set things up in an efficient way so that your wishes can be fulfilled once you pass on. And also the whole issue within that estate planning issue of second marriages. Huge issue, fascinating issue. We're going to do a lot more work on this. We're going to speak about it a lot more time. But I just wanted to sort of, in the middle of doing the series, sort of break it down and give you some practical takeaways. Again, you need to think about it. Okay, don't wait until you're 75 to think about it. Right? There's like this thing out there, like when you hit 50, you should do a will. I don't know what that's based on. I don't know if it's like a religious custom or if it's a societal custom, but you go ahead and Google. I happened to do something, I Googled it, and I'm like, there are all these things when you hit 50, you should do a will. You should really start thinking about these issues and then codify them, right? Take a lawyer and figure out which approach is best for you, right? Is it the trust approach? Is it the will approach? Whatever it is, however you technically, formulate whatever your wishes are, whatever your wishes are, whatever vehicle you put them into. But the point is, while that's incredibly important, certainly tax-wise and down the road, you need to think about what your wishes are, right? It's your legacy ultimately, right? So you want to sort of define your legacy in many respects. So this is one of the ways to do them. You've been tuning into the Aaron Katzman Show. We speak about your life, your money, and your investments. And as always, we're coming to you from Jerusalem, the spiritual and soon-to-be financial capital of the world. If you like this content, please hit the like button below. If you've not yet subscribed, please go ahead and do so to the YouTube channel and to the podcast. And if you think, if you've got friends, who are getting that age, right? They're hitting 50, 55, 60, whatever, and this might be just to get them thinking, and this might benefit them, go ahead and feel free to share this information. as well. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll speak to you soon.